Welcome to Ascension Psychology, the Foundation of Miracles. I'm Dr. Lauren Pichard, the founder, and that is my photo on the slide. If you've been doing personal growth, therapy, or spiritual work, and something still isn't shifting, this will show you why. I encourage you to grab a notebook as we go and to take notes. In the next few minutes, I'll show you what becomes possible when we integrate psychology, energy medicine, and consciousness to work in one coherent method. Get comfortable and stay alert. I'm going to share some interesting information with you. Let's briefly review the agenda. In this course, I'm going to give you a clear orientation to Ascension Psychology. We'll look at what inspired this work, why integrating healing traditions creates deeper results, and real examples of transformation across cultures and clinical work. I'm going to show you the connection between trauma and consciousness and how they both influence mental and physical health. I'll introduce you to the Ascension Psychology method and show you exactly how to go deeper if this powerful modality resonates with you. In an age of widely available knowledge, we can learn from each other's perspectives. Ascension Psychology was developed to integrate the most effective elements of these traditions into one coherent framework, so healing can be deeper, more powerful, more holistic, and more accessible. This image is of Dr. Peng Ming, and he is the creator of the Zening Qigong method. He actually is the first in his family to have studied Western medicine. He came from a long lineage of ancient, Chinese practitioners. And after graduating, he worked in the Beijing hospital, and he said, hey, people are not getting better here. My parents and my grandparents, they were healing people. And most of you know him because you have seen the video of the bladder cancer dissolving in 3 minutes. Most people in the spiritual community, it's like a very famous energy medicine little short, and I'm going to show it to you in a minute. But I want people to know the background of Dr. Peng Ming a little bit more. And sorry for stuttering over his name. I'm always like, is it Ming Peng or Peng Ming? I am so American. So I've actually trained with one of his Qigong masters that he's trained, and they would do like chi squats all night long, so thousands and thousands of repetitions, who worked with him at Dr. Ming's medicineless hospital. So he was actually getting results like this bladder cancer video that you're going to see in a minute, with many, many patients. So the master that I trained with has shared stories that children would come in with hearing loss, and they would put like hundreds of them in the courtyard, and the Qigong masters would come and do the Qigong healing, and 80% would have restored hearing after one session. So my understanding right now is that Zening Qigong is the #1 Qigong practiced in China, and that is because it's getting such good results. What is unique about Dr. Peng's healing tradition is that before this, Qigong masters would only heal those that they really, really cared about because they were using their own built-up qi. And so Dr. Peng found a way to move more energy so that the master is replenished while he heals people. And what I've studied from the Hawaiian ancient arts and Yogananda's methods also is that the difference between good healing and bad healing is the divinely faced healers have access to all of the energy in the world. The people that are practicing the dark arts, they're stealing energy from others. And that's why they're doing like the ritual sacrifices and things like that, because they're collecting dark energy for power. But Heavenly Father is omnipresent. And so when we are in our omnipresence, or even aspiring to be, we have access to all of the energy in the universe. So that's a huge amount of energy. And Dr. Ming's method helps us access it more. And so before we go on to the next slide and watch the bladder cancer dissolving, in the full-length videos, it's done in 3 minutes, and this is a compilation of just a 55-second little clip. But Dr. Ming, when he was a boy, he wasn't able to speak. And his parents, being with the traditional Chinese medicine practitioners, had Qigong friends, and one of their friends is the one who gave him a healing, and he began to speak again. Which, thank goodness, because he has been a blessing to the healing arts since then. Let's see, this is supposed to just play right now. I do this.
Illnesses, including bladder cancer.
下脚趾的左侧有和一个压迫一个。
So that lump that's not in the U is the cancer. And how cool, right? Let's just take that in. It dissolved. The full video, you can go look it up on YouTube, is in about 3 minutes, a tumor dissolved. So the master that I trained with in China, he also had a story of a man with a huge growth on the side of his face, almost like a double face, like completely disfigured how big the tumor was, to the point where the man could not have it operated on because there's so many blood vessels and stuff. It was just too risky of a surgery. And he just did 100 chi squats, which is kind of actually a lot of work and a lot of discipline, every day for a year, and his face went back to normal. So there are some simple techniques with this that I will teach you as we move forward. And I will teach you even what I believe is some of the limitations and why we want to go on and integrate some of the other modalities. So I've met with a few of the different masters that worked at this school, and they have some stories of, I just couldn't heal this one. Like one was even his sister, right? So you knew he tried to give her everything. And that's where understanding the psychology and coping skills we use, so that we can help people heal and integrate so that they don't have to use the coping skills that are making them ill come in. But go ahead, some of you might want to go watch the video again or watch the full 3-minute video. You'll see the 55-second one is a good synopsis of it though.
Illnesses, incurable.
And so we are going to give a little shout out to the 80s babies. So literally it is using good information, good vibes to remove bad vibes. That is what was happening in that video. one of the statements that they were saying is already healed, already healed, already healed. And I forget the other ones are. I have it in my notes somewhere. We can talk about that another day if we want to. Now, the other thing to know is that the Medicineless Hospital was established somewhere between 1980 and 1990, but it was actually closed down around 2001 because the Chinese government put policies in place that said that large Qigong organizations were not allowed anymore. What's also interesting, and sorry I don't have the name of the island with me at the moment, but a bunch of Qigong masters from the Medicineless Hospital moved to an island, and this island in China actually has less restrictions than the rest of China does. And they think it's because of all of their Qigong meditative energy practices that put them in a more free island. And the island is beautiful. I've seen pictures of it. And then, of course, with that Care Bear stare, those of you that liked the Care Bears like I did when I was a kid, we've been studying energy healing since we were toddlers. Now, I meant to ask you to do this in the other slide, but we're going to do it now here. I want you to just settle into the energy of Dr. Hugh Len here. Now, he was a Hawaiian doctor who was working in a forensic psychiatric hospital setting, and he is very famous for bringing his 4-statement Ho'oponopono to the masses. Before Dr. Hugh Len's work, the Hawaiian healing tradition was mostly kept a secret and preserved for people that really kind of earned it and were trusted with it. Dr. Hugh Len was like, everybody needs Ho'oponopono because he believed it would bring world peace. And he has followers that have gone and lectured to different governments, teaching them how to do it because they believe in Ho'oponopono so much. Now, I have this in the introduction because, again, as a foundational energy medicine student, these two stories are the most widely known and some of the most inspirational, which is why they're so widely known. So you need to know these before you really know anything else. But what I want you to notice is just feel into the vibration. If you kind of just relax and settle into your body, you can feel into the vibration of Dr. Len. And you can compare that vibration to the vibration of Dr. Peng Ming a few slides before. And you can feel their energies are very distinct, yet both very pure. So you can actually feel into the energy of the lineages. And so you might want to pause and take it in. But you just kind of imagine expanding your energy field a little bit into this picture to see what it feels like. And then when you contrast it to Dr. Peng Ming's, you're going to notice a difference. And we can even go lead into Yogananda's when we go to his image in a little bit, and you'll see that all of these masters have a different healing energy. And we can discuss it. I don't want to tell you what my experience is of them being different. I want you guys to experience it first. And we can talk about it in the chat to either confirm so you guys have more confidence in what it feels like, or maybe you have a lot of dense energy and it's not easy for you to do that yet. As you heal, it'll be easier for you to be more empathic and more intuitive. And actually, the founder of pranic healing couldn't feel energy at all when he started, and then he created his entire modality. So everybody can do this. It is part of the human potential. So let's go watch his video. I want you to listen to it. I don't think I described it too well yet, so we're going to talk about it again at the end. And you're probably already starting to think about life, reality, energy and experiences a little bit different.
The basic idea is that there are tragedies in our lives because we don't take a look at where the origin of the problem is, and it's always in self. So the tragedy being in life is that we're clueless and we repeat the same thing over and over and over again. And so when I work at, for example, when I worked at Hawaii State Hospital, working with people killed, raped, and murdered people, I had to ask the question, what is going on in me that I am experiencing this? I'm experiencing a patient being violent, I'm experiencing staff going crazy, and that sort of stuff. And so I had to take 100% responsibility for that. What's going on in me is that I'm creating this experience. And so I just do this cleaning. The cleaning, the Ho'oponopono is about going into the self, and specifically into the subconscious, and where the data is, since everything is run by information, so the information in my subconscious is dictating to me what I'm seeing, what I'm experiencing. It's like in Shakespeare's Tempest, where Miranda says, "Oh, woe is me to see what I see." So Miranda has this insight that she's only seeing the data. And so it is with me, and so it is with all of you. And so I just work on the data in me that I experience as, quotes, the other person. So if I see you as being crazy and goofy, it's only my experience of you. If I erase that, you can't be that way. Not possible.
So that's huge. It's not possible for somebody to be crazy. It's not possible then for someone to be sick. It is not possible for a government to be corrupt if we heal ourselves. And quantum physics with the observer effect actually talks to that. I don't know it exactly, right? But it's like when the observer looks at a wave or a particle, right? It acts different observed than not observed. That's what Hugh Len is talking about there. And he's talking about as within, so without. So there's a few things here that's the same as China. So he's saying, like, I get the bad information out. So that means, yeah, terrible things happen on Earth. Extremely painful things. People have brutal crimes happen against them and their families. And he's saying that it's because there's bad information that happens. And Dr. Pang Ming says the same thing, that it's bad information. So the Qigong is moving bad information, the bad energy out, bringing good information in. The Ho'oponopono prayer does the same thing. And the difference is that Dr. Hugh Len works with the subconscious mind, which is where the psychology aspect comes hugely there, right? So they believe that just like Sigmund Freud, and just like Carl Jung, and just like Paramhansa Yogananda's quote that we're going to look on the next slide, that our subconscious mind actually creates reality. And the best way for me to summarize that is with Yogananda's slide. So let's go ahead and let's take a look there.
The basic idea is that
Okay, so let's read this quote by Paramhansa Yogananda. So he comes from the Kriya Yoga lineage, and he brought Kriya Yoga from India to the Americas. Now, Yogananda says that his life mission and the mission of Self-Realization Fellowship was to unite Christianity with yoga so that people can see that they are pointing at the same thing even though they are using different words. Now, Yogananda has been very good to me in my life. So has Jesus. Yogananda helped heal my daughter of seizures. He's given me blessings, which I can go into another time, but he has definitely performed miracles. One of the first fun things, so he has a book, Autobiography of a Yogi, if you're interested in knowing more about Paramhansa Yogananda's work. It starts with teleportation, so if you ever hear me talking about teleportation, I read his book and I was like, I was thinking small. We can teleport while still alive on Earth? Like, heck yes. Now, let's just see, Yogananda, I wanted everyone to be able to come in and feel your frequency. I know that this is not a perfect picture of you, but let's ask if you can help your frequency come through. And then if you guys can just settle into that. And then he is in omnipresent consciousness, and so he can actually help everybody at the same time. So Yogananda, if there's any kind of a blessing or anything that you can give to everybody that's listening, or a message, if you guys look at his photo and kind of just concentrate. You can pause if you need more time. Now, the thing with Paramhansa Yogananda is his mentor, they would just sit there and have challenges of healing disease. So his mentor, Swami Sri Yukteswar, who is the incarnation of wisdom, that's like what he was known as, and they would just sit there and they would just meditate out of disease. So very similar to what Dr. Peng Ming was doing, what the Hawaiian traditions do. All these ancient techniques were healing people long before Western medicine came around. And it seems like we've lost our way as a humanity. And so my goal with Ascension Psychology is to help everyone really connect and honor these divine lineages, to take the best of the teachings and integrate them into ourselves, and to get out of pain and suffering, right? Because based on this, world peace is just about having peace with ourselves. And actually, Paramhansa Yogananda teaches that peace is the first step of enlightenment. So let's read this quote by him. The universe is a cosmic motion picture of consciousness. It is a dream-like show. The seer, so you, the seer, is the only reality. The seen, the whole external world, is but a shadow. When the dream of creation vanishes, the dreamer, the spirit, is what remains. And so the Hawaiians believe similar to this as well, that life is a dream. And so working with these different healing techniques help us like do a waking dream or a lucid dream, right? When you have control of your dream, you can change the outcome. And so that's what we're going to look at together here, right? And really that reality is more flexible than what people assume or what we have been taught. So when we look at it like it's all energy and have the foundational understanding that it's our reality, it's my reality, therefore I can go co-create peace with everyone I interact with because it's my reality, or health with everyone I interact with. It's that simple. So I think I need to finish with what was Dr. Hewlin's experience was that the psychiatric unit closed down after 4 years of him doing his Ho'oponopono prayer. So different lineages have different methods of doing the Ho'oponopono prayer. And he took it and he, quote unquote, Americanized it. And he turned it into 4 statements. You're going to want to go write this down. And I'm going to teach it again so that you guys can pull it up another time. So if you don't have a notebook right now, I'm going to teach it again. But it's 4 statements. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And that was all that he said. Those 4 simple statements every day while he was looking at each case, each file of the patients. He never even met with the patients. He just looked at their files, did Ho'oponopono every day, and in 4 years, I think it's something like 95% of the patients no longer met criteria for being there. A few patients, like 3 or 4, had to get moved to a different hospital when the ward shut down. So that's a huge amount. And the secret is he took responsibility for everything that was showing up in the shadow of his reality. Right? So that's one of the secrets. Yes, bad things happen. But if I know that this is my reality, because it's all a perception of my consciousness, I can now change anything and everything. And I'm going to tell you, the more you heal, the easier it gets. Because there's conflicting energies, and I'm going to get into that in another training. But the subconscious mind holds our childhood trauma, it holds our ancestral trauma. If past lives are real, or if they're a metaphor, because I do get successful healings with them, when you heal those things that are being projected from the subconscious mind, that's where the healing comes. And that's what Ascension Psychology is going to teach you, connected with all of the rest of this stuff. So why integrate different healing traditions? So we just talked about, and I showed you how cancer can disappear in 3 minutes. That's a lot easier than anyone who's seen people suffering with chemo. And I've had some people get annoyed with me and think that I was maybe hallucinating or something because chemo is what kept their partner or themselves alive. I'm glad you guys are alive, and I'm glad it worked for you. Right? Some of you might be mad that you went through all that pain and suffering. When Qigong is also available, you might want to use it to stay healthy, or use the Ascension Psychology methods that I'm going to teach you to make sure that you are no longer a frequency for that disease again. Right? So it can be preventative if there is a disease that runs in your family. We can look at why, and we'll get into all of that more. But I want to talk to you guys now about schizophrenia, right? Which maybe some of the people at Dr. Hewlin's hospital had. But schizophrenia does better, has different outcomes in different cultures. America, I think, is probably one of the worst outcomes that it has, and it's a tragedy because all of this information is so widely available now. So when I was in, I think it was undergrad, I was taking this interesting sociology course. And it might have been a different course. I don't really remember, to be honest. It was like 20 years ago. But the story was important because if somebody started having schizophrenic symptoms, right, delusional, not reality testing, meeting people, right, just really off-base stuff, everybody in the village would come out and tell them how awesome they are. And I think it was more to it than that, because that just sounds too simple. And from what I know about how to heal the lineage, it would, schizophrenia, it would take a lot more than that, but they get better. And maybe those villages, it was that simple because maybe they were doing the healing work the entire time, and so it's more complicated than that now. But this is one of the stories that had me interested in how are they doing that and why aren't we doing that? right? Also, why do some people suffer more than other people? That was another question I had that all of this work I've done has brought me answers to. Here is another foundational thing that everybody needs to know before moving forward. And this is Kaiser's Adverse Childhood Experiences Study, also known as the ACE study. And I just want to mention before we get into it, I do have this on the ascensionpsychology.com website under free resources. So you can take it. It's a few questions. And as long as everything is working okay, you will then get more information about how you showed up and what it means and some tips on why I don't think it's all inclusive, but it's pointing in the right direction. And the follow-up emails go into more descriptions about that. But the ACE study showed that childhood trauma is connected to health problems, right? And the more childhood trauma you have, like a parent in jail, a parent losing a job, not having food to eat, the basic types of child abuse that are out there, all are a higher ACE score that then are connected to this. So why they didn't go to the next step of, so if you heal it, it gets better, I don't know. But at Ascension Psychology, we do see that when you know how to work with the origins of where the disease comes from, which means being able to find the origin and that trauma, and sometimes there's more than one, the disease does go away. And I just want to add, when you do it that way, some people have kind of lost a lot of energy because the disease has impacted them so much. And so that's where knowing how to refill with new energy and bringing in those Xining Qigong techniques is really important to refill and replenish so that someone's not like healed but also so depleted that it doesn't show, right? So heal it and then learn how to fill up the bucket. Sometimes there might need to be soul retrievals and different things, but I will teach everybody how to do all of that should you decide that you want to continue with me. So in 2025, I presented this case study, and the name is changed for confidentiality purposes, but it's a young woman who had trauma, and she had chronic autoimmune symptoms. And I think it was like 10 to 12 sessions, and we worked together longer than that. Her symptoms disappeared, right? So let's just read this quote from her. "Before this, I had all these symptoms: joint pain, chronic illness, nightmare. I saw half a dozen specialists who couldn't help me at all. Since we've been working together, I've had almost no symptoms at all. Come to think of it, I can't even think of one. It's insane. My quality of life has gone up significantly." So we used some of the Ho'oponopono together. We used the Ascension Psychology regression technique to go into the trauma, and then some of the healing techniques to then heal it. And so that's kind of a big deal. And I know that this is one case study, but there's more people who have had success. Now, some people, like I said, have more layers that they need to heal, or maybe more secondary gains, which I'll teach you guys how to find the secondary gains so that people can heal and, not be stuck there. You need to be motivated because sometimes people have complex issues that have manifested into disease, right? So like that one guy who had, the deformed face and had to do 100 chi squats every day for a year. That's every day, right? So some people, are like, oh, I went to 5 sessions once a month and, it didn't work for me. Well, we're talking about healing with consciousness. This isn't a surgery where you go in once and it comes out, right? There's so much trauma that our ancestors haven't healed and so many layers to the psyche. I'm not saying this is always the easiest way. Now, sometimes, I've seen in 3 sessions, I help somebody not have to go have an exploratory stomach surgery, right? Because I couldn't figure out why she was having such irritable bowel stuff going on, right? And it might have even been 2 sessions, and then, in 3 or 4, she's like, I don't think I need to come anymore, right? Totally seen that. Chronic pain is another one that tends to, especially if it's a simple chronic pain, right? But sometimes if it's like a multi-system thing, we'll talk about all of that stuff. And sometimes I think for certain people, they kind of come in with a lot of heavy energy to work through because they're supposed to really dedicate their life to exploring this stuff. Right? And actually, a quote that Yogananda says is that people expect yogis to have perfect health. But it's actually the opposite is true. These yogi masters often have terrible health. And it's because in their Kriya Yoga, they take on the pain and suffering of their disciples to help them work through their karma. Which, how generous and how nice and how much of a master must you feel to be willing to take on some of somebody else's karma, right? Now, I think the Xening Qigong can have us maybe even get through the limitations of what Kriya Yoga has had, which is really just wild to think about. And I've seen the masters, like I've looked at planet Earth from the masters level, and Yogananda, like Jesus Christ is right next to Heavenly Father, right? And Yogananda is right up there with them. And so many other, enlightened masters and saints, all very, very close to Heavenly Father. Now, what I've seen is that they are embodiments of light. And so when they look at the pain and suffering on earth, it is so little and unimportant. So these things that are so heavy and so hard for us, a lot of it is because I think we've really forgotten who we are. And because of all of the trauma that we've endured, we don't know how to embody it. And so my goal in working with everyone is that we embody it so that challenges just feel like meh, right? And before that we trust, yeah, this is really hard, but we can get through it. Now, some of the things that if you choose to study with me, we will go through together is soul retrieval and parts integration, energy field alignment. So I will teach you how to work with the aura, chakras, energy flow, going through meridians. I'm going to teach you the subconscious pattern reprogramming. I'm going to teach you attachment, which is the first trauma. And, we can have secure attachment, but still have little attachment issues. And there could still be entanglements with unhealthy family patterns that come up like later in a marriage and relationships. I'm going to teach you shadow work and integration. That's going to be part of like how to kind of change the hardships that we experience in the world. I'm going to teach you how to do the generational trauma healing. If you have a certain goal in life, I'm going to teach you how to align with it and make sure that there's no blocks, split energy, sabotages, stopping you from having that. This is an intuitive healing modality. One of the things, as you start to carry more light, it makes you easier to see. So the more you purify, the more intuitive you will be, and I will teach you how to do it safely. A lot of people are like, let me get the third eye tuning fork. Well, no, our power comes from being grounded. So I'm going to teach you all that stuff. We can go through dream work. past life healing. I've seen it be very powerful too. We can do downloads and initiations. And then, of course, treating illness and also couples work and family systems stuff, right? So not just the generational trauma, but current family system stuff is all things that I am very effective at healing. The list probably is longer than this. And as we advance together, I can continue teaching you different things. And just like, I free-lived off these slides, as we go into, different questions and different things, I will teach you, what comes up in order for healing to be deep and accurate. Now, one of the other things is, and of course I'll teach you Christian ministry, right? And where I think the churches have shortchanged people. So if you're listening, I've seen, pastors that are great at Christian ministry, great at, connecting with the Holy Spirit and taking in information of why something is there and what the problem is and healing it with Jesus. And I've also seen them say, this one I just couldn't get. And that's why I like the family constellations, is to heal that stuff, because it can show what's hidden. And I think if Jesus isn't healing it on command, it's because there is a lesson he wants us to learn from it. And so I can teach you Ascension constellations, which is based on, the Zulu healing in Africa that Bert Hellinger brought to Germany and then brought the method around. And how to do that work also. And that's when you see me moving the stones or the characters, that's that work. So your pathway to Ascension Psychology, this first course, now you kind of understand my orientation. You understand that it's based in real science, real theory. It's kind of pulling together the themes that are the similar amongst all of these different cultures. And it integrates the best of what I've been studying and dedicated my entire life to. So the next course in the higher tier is the Psychology of Miracles course. So it's going to be more information about that. And then there's also the self-help programs. So Chain Breaker is to help people break generational trauma. And you guys, I think there's got to be close to 100 healings in there. It's 4 hours, and my goal was to get as much pain and suffering out of people and their lineage so that they can be restored with their family and have family peace. And so the first hour removes painful energies like like despair and anger and grief and hopelessness. There's protection included in there. There's reconnecting with children if they've been separated because of divorce or CPS. But everyone can benefit from these healings. And then the 3-hour Chain Breaker is going through tons and tons and tons of inherited trauma that can create pain in a person's life. So even if you're not in family or dependency court, that could still be a good place to go start, to just clean up the lineage. Maybe it prevents problems. Maybe you're considering a separation. It could help prevent it. And then the Abundance Bundle, if you're interested in working on your finances, those are both on my website. It's supposed to say ascensionpsychology.com/abundance bundle. There's other self-recorded self-help healings on there also. If you want a private session, I do individuals, or sometimes there's small groups. And of course, there's the different levels of practitioner training. And we can go, my goal is let's go all the way until we're teleporting. And so again, here are the references of everything I was describing. And your next best bet is to stay in the school community so that we can stay connected. So make sure that you are registered and in that group so that you can be aware of up and coming events. If you want to train deeper, go ahead and apply for the membership so that we can go deeper into healing and our human potential.